course in sociology of religion, she thought her reaction was, well, that's great news. He hasn't given up religion yet.
Right,
He's getting some, and I mean, my grandmother, I love her dearly. She's up there in years, and so I wasn't going to break it to her by saying, no, Grandma, what I do there is look at it as a sociologist. We don't teach, the doctrine. It'd be interesting to know what more of my students' parents who do still buy those doctrines, what they would think if they knew what I was saying about their doctrine in those courses.
It's interesting because to bring this into even a more contemporary context, there's we were discussing I think before the show, that there's this tendency to teach so-called intelligent design in school, and there's certain places where they offer the lame excuse, well, we think students should have a choice and that they should teach creationism or intelligent design right along with evolution. But the fact is, they really don't want that to happen, because if that were to happen, it would expose creationism and intelligent design to the scientific method, and creationism and intelligent design would come up short. So as I was saying before we started taping, that we had our little run-in with that in Pennsylvania. In fact, recently there were a number of people on a school board in, I can't remember which city now, but folks who were interested in getting intelligent, precisely in that issue, getting intelligent design. Dover, there you go. Right. And there were a lot of us, I think not only those people in Dover, but a lot of us elsewhere who were very interested and were paying a lot of attention to that. And I think it would, one wants to be optimistic and to say that ultimately it wouldn't, there'd be massive resistance to that, even if school boards were able to get those kinds of things passed and were able to start dealing with that at least the faculties and the teachers would put their critical mechanisms to work and start attacking that stuff. And on the other hand, too, I think sometimes the sociologist in me thinks that, what often happens when those kinds of social movements get going, especially if they have a powerful enough base, even if it's not all that powerful in terms of numbers, if it's powerful in terms of influence,
the influence and the activists who are leading it, then not only can they get those ideas imposed, they can put people in place in those institutions who believe those ideas, and so the critical voices who you would want to be there to challenge them and to expose them in the way that you just said, if those people go away, then you get a new institution with new people who are saying intelligent design, hooray.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing behind the intelligent design movement. It's not really for the sake of being objective or exposing children to alternative point of view. It's that wedge thing. Right. They want to impose Christianity, their brand of Christianity, on the public school. But anyway, back to
in a demographic way, ultimately, get people that they agree with.
It's to make science go away
in the institution.
Well, the trouble is that the only way they can get in is to say it's about fairness, and you have to present all different ideas. And once you present all different ideas, you have to open it up. It can't shut the door after you get in. Because once you say that, then the Chinese are going to want to put their Chinese egg theory, and the atheists everybody's going to come in.
The flying spaghetti monster.
The flying spaghetti monster, and that's where they shoot themselves in the foot, and then they'll be arguing, well, it's not for really everybody, it's just for us, and that's when the problems start.
Well, I've seen that argument before, and I put up some kind of argument like that. It was on some forum in the internet a year or so, 2 years ago. And then somebody came back with, well, yeah, except that this is like a Christian culture, so of course...
But that's not what they're arguing.
No,
the initial argument is it's always when it's equal access, that it's really supposed to be for everybody, and then when everybody wants to be part of it, they have to backtrack and say, well, maybe not everybody. Okay, we have 2 minutes, so we can't get into your argument today. We'll get into the next show. So in the next 2 minutes, you teach the sociology of religion. What's the course outline for that? What do you read? What do you talk about?
Well, it changes a lot. In fact, I haven't taught that specific course in a couple years now, but a lot of other courses that I teach touch on those issues. Certainly, the book by Durkheim, which I hope we'll get a chance to talk about.
What's the title of that?
The title is "The Elementary Forms of Religious Life."
Okay, interesting. It's still something people should read today.
Still should. I think it's
the elementary forms
published initially in 1915, I think, in France, and still almost 100 years later, very applicable and very insightful perspective on. I mean, Durkheim's his argument in the book is in a very small nutshell is let's look at what it is that religion actually does
1 minute.
socially.
Go ahead. Go take 30
more seconds.
30 more
And so he, as a good historical sociologist, comparative sociologist, he wants to go back basically and look at, he wants to try and find religion in what is his view, its most primitive form. Let's go back and look at its most primitive form, because there we'll see the core, the kernel of this thing that is preserved in all the other forms of religion, including contemporary Catholicism for Durkheim, contemporary Christianity of a Protestant variety for us in the U.S. That's the dominant religious form that we.
Did he become an atheist, or what do you think he was? Did he pay?
Who, Durkheim?
Was he still a believer, but
Oh
not
no, I think he was very
anti-clerical?
clearly. He was very clearly a critic of the idea of the supernatural.
Come back. Join us for the next show.
We're clearly out of
having a
here.
great discussion. See you next week. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Tim. See you next week.